Keir Starmer has officially resigned as Prime Minister for the United Kingdom and as leader of the Labour Party after 717 days in office, which, in the grand scheme of things, is a very, very short time. But when you compare it to his predecessors, it's actually quite long when you consider Liz Truss was only in office for about 49 days. Boris Johnson was in office for just a bit longer than him, and Rishi Sunak was in office for just over 600 days. So, compared to his to the Conservative lot, he's surpassed some of them, but in the grand scheme of things, it is quite a short period of time. And I'm basically just going to go over what he achieved, what he got wrong, and where this is all going to go next. My name is Alex on Politics, and I am independent and authentic. And if you enjoy my content, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so let's start with Keir Starmer's popularity at the time of his announcement that he is resigning, which I've got YouGov's most recent favourability tracker for him here. It says that at the time of the resignation, his favourability rating was only at 24%, whilst his unfavourability rating was at 69%, which puts him at a negative 45% favourable rating, which is incredibly low, but not unheard of. I mean, Liz Truss, at the time that she got kicked out, was at minus 70, and Boris Johnson, before he resigned, was at minus 53. So he's done a bit better than them. Oh, and Rishi Sunak was also at minus 53. So he's done better than his predecessors, but it's still not very popular at all. I mean, it has gone down in recent weeks from about 72%, or 74% at one point. But apart from that, his favourability rating has been pretty stagnant at about 24%, which is a quarter of the country actually having a favourable opinion of him. 66% of Britons also thought that they had no idea what Keir Starmer actually stood for, and 56% of all Britons thought that Keir Starmer's tenureship was disappointing, as the best word to describe it. So it's fair to say he wasn't the most popular politician in the world, or in the UK, that goes without saying. But let's go through what he actually achieved and, well, some of his mishaps. So some of the things that he did achieve as Prime Minister, I think the main thing he did would be probably the legislation that he passed through. For example, the Employment Rights Act and the Renters' Rights Act, which gave a lot of power back to the employees and away from the higher ups. And the Renters' Rights Act obviously gave a lot more leeway to anyone living in private rented accommodation and having to deal with rubbish landlords and ones that were charging them too high. They were two good bits of legislation, which in my opinion were kind of needed in the UK when it came to who was making the decisions. And I think that he'll be very pleased that he passed those through, and then as they progress, you'll start to see the benefits of them towards the average person. Some other things that he did as well, he was bringing us closer to the EU. That was another good thing that I think personally he did. Obviously, I'd prefer if he had rejoined the EU altogether, but as close a relationship as we can get is good enough for now until we get someone who actually wants to rejoin the EU. He could argue that he stabilised the economy to an extent. The economy's not doing great, let's be honest, but it's better than what we had under the Conservatives. The NHS waiting list was another good thing that he did, obviously bringing it down by the highest amount that it's been in 17 years. He didn't get involved per se in the Iran war. That was another thing, which everyone thought he was going to side with Donald Trump, but he actually stood his ground and said that Britain is not going to get fully involved in this, and he actually stood true to his word. That was another good thing he did. Nationalising the railways and taking them away from the atrocious private companies that were running them before. Obviously, we haven't seen whether that's going to be a benefit, but the idea of it now being in the government's hands is a lot better than being in private companies who are only interested in how it benefits them. So there's some good things that he did do. And he was a statesman. He wasn't necessarily a charlatan. He wasn't really a clown like Boris Johnson. He was a very, very diplomatic guy who was very serious about getting on with the job. Like, he wasn't a bad person. And he was, in terms of foreign policy, he was quite good in that as well. He maintained good relationships with everyone. He improved some relationships with Europe and stuff. So in that respect, he wasn't bad at all. However, obviously, he's had to resign. So there are some bad things he clearly did. We'll start off with the first bad thing he did, which was getting rid of the winter fuel allowance for every pensioner. Obviously, there are some pensioners who do need it, some pensioners who don't, but getting rid of it for everyone instead of means testing it was already set him up for failure. There are a lot of people who really relied on the winter fuel allowance to get them through the cold weather and stuff, and taking it away to save some money for what purpose? That was not a good thing. Hiking national insurance when he actually said that he wouldn't do that leading up to the election was another bad thing. I think that was setting people off in like, okay, he's going to do what he wants to do rather than what he's telling us he's going to do. Like, it's another thing where it was a broken promise. He had a couple of U-turns, like at the Winterfell allowance as well, which people didn't like because they were like, at least if you're going to do something, stay true to your words. You're credible. The Peter Mandelson scandal was another big thing that went wrong for him, appointing someone who had very, very close ties to Jeffrey Epstein, even though he clearly knew about it and still chose to hire him anyway. That was a really, really bad lapse of judgment and not a good showing from him at all. And that brought a lot of scrutiny because people were like, well, how can we trust this man if he's going to hire people who have such good relationships with known criminals and known paedophiles, just because they want them in their cabinet? And then you've got the whole migration issue. Now, Keir Starmer, based on his manifesto, would argue that reducing immigration would be a good thing. He would call that an achievement. Obviously, they've had so much division in the Labour Party about that and about as well the welfare reforms that there's been so much infighting that he hasn't been able to control. I don't think he fully understood that the Labour Party was not ready to make a more rightwards shift. And we saw that with migration coming down. People weren't too happy with that, about him celebrating that, and also the welfare reform, which was another big thing, where people were like, what are you doing? Like, these people need to be on the welfare. I don't know why we're taking this away from people who really need it, instead of taxing the rich. Now, it's a fair point, but it caused a lot of issues within the Labour Party. We saw lots of resignations. We saw him kicking out a bunch of people in the party who didn't vote for him, vote with him for those things. Now, what do I think he's going to do after he leaves prime ministerial position, which he will do before September? That was the timetable that they'd lined out. I assume he'll step back from politics. I mean, it was not fun for him, let's be honest. It was a pretty rough ride for him for his tenure. So I assume he'll probably step back from politics for a bit and maybe do like some talks in the future, or be some Labour peer in the House of Lords maybe. I can't imagine he's going to be back as an MP trying to become leader again. That would be pretty crazy if he did that, considering how unpopular he was. And I guess he's going to have to watch from the sidelines. I obviously do think that Andy Burnham is now going to be the next Prime Minister. I don't think he's even going to be contested in the election, the Labour leadership election. So I assume they'll give it to him straight away, and then he'll start in July. And we'll have to see how that does, whether he's going to be better than Keir or not. But for now, that's how Keir Starmer's tenureship really went. I don't know, I'm probably missing some really big things that he did here that I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a topsy-turvy ride for him. There was a few good things, a lot of bad things. Like, I guess it just shows that the party realised that he wasn't the man to lead them. They didn't think they'd be successful with him as leader. And that's fair enough. If that happens, then you have to make those decisions. For now, we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Labour Party and who's going to be our next Prime Minister. Who do you think? Let me know in the comments below. But thank you guys for watching. It's been me, Alex on Politics. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one.